In Nazi-occupied France, an entire army moved quietly in the shadows. They called themselves the Maquis. Ordinary people turned resistance fighters, their names whispered in secret and their missions carried out under moonlight. But who were these men and women risking everything? And how did they cripple Hitler's war machine without ever wearing a uniform? The story of the Maquis begins in the forests and mountains. Young men fleeing forced labor, teachers, farmers, factory workers, all hiding from the Gestapo, all determined never to submit. They found shelter in rural hideouts, living rough, always watching the horizon for approaching danger. They called these hideouts Maquis, named after the dense, wild scrublands of Corsica. And soon, the fighters took that name for themselves. The Maquis became a symbol of French defiance. But defiance wasn't enough. Fighting back meant sabotage, striking at rail lines, supply depots, convoys. The Maquis received secret drops of weapons and radios from the British SOE, parachuted into fields by moonlight. Coded messages broadcast by the BBC became the signal to strike, the long sobs of the violins of autumn. A phrase, a mission, an explosion, then the Maquis would vanish again. Their targets? The lifelines of the German army, trains carrying tanks and fuel, telegraph wires transmitting orders, bridges vital to troop movements, and endless miles of railroad. A single act of sabotage could delay a division by days, just as Allied soldiers were storming the beaches in Normandy. In June 1944, as D-Day began, the Maquis rose up everywhere, blowing up railways, ambushing convoys, and pinning down thousands of German troops who might otherwise have rushed to reinforce the beaches. But the cost was savage. Soldiers and civilians alike were caught by the Gestapo and sentenced to death or sent to concentration camps. Villagers sometimes paid the highest price, their homes burned to the ground in brutal reprisals. To be Maquis was a death sentence. Yet thousands chose resistance over surrender, and many never saw liberation. Some attacks became legend. Near the village of Vercors, a whole plateau turned into a fortress. The Maquis held out for weeks against German paratroopers and SS troops, their final resistance brutal but heroic, and the sabotage of the train of death. Maquis fighters derailed a convoy of prisoners bound for extermination camps, allowing hundreds to escape into the woods. Their courage spread hope and helped pave the way for Allied victory. But the Maquis were not a single army. They fought in scattered bands, sometimes competing, sometimes clashing with communist groups, but always united by hatred for the occupier and a dream of liberation. Many Maquisards had no formal military training. They learned sabotage from hand-drawn guides or fleeting lessons from parachuted British agents. Homemade explosives, stolen grenades, terse whispers in the dark. This was the Maquis' arsenal. Risk was everywhere. Every town contained informers. One word to the Germans meant torture or death. Trust, once broken, could cost a whole network its life. All had to live by codes and silence. Yet even under these pressures, the Maquis found ways to resist ordinary fear. Coded songs, carved initials, a bullet hidden in a loaf of bread. Women played a crucial role, serving as couriers, gathering intelligence, or hiding fugitives beneath floorboards. Many risked everything to carry messages across enemy checkpoints. Their bravery all the more silent because it was so often unrecorded. Some, like Lucie Aubrac and Simone Segouin, joined Maquis cells on raids, taking up arms alongside men. Sabotage was science and art. Rail tracks had to be destroyed with just the right amount of plastic explosive. A blast too weak, and the Germans could repair it within hours. Too strong, and whole villages might be endangered. Sometimes a single wire pulled at the right time would send a supply train plunging off the tracks. Other nights, the Maquis crept into German garages, setting vehicles ablaze with nothing but matches and gasoline. The Allies quickly realized how valuable these resistance fighters were. D-Day could not succeed without the Maquis tying down German reinforcements. So British and American planes dropped tons of weapons and supplies deep into the French countryside. Radio operators risked detection with every transmission, sending out vital intelligence about troop movements and supply lines. The Maquis paid a heavy price. In the summer of 1944, German counterattacks intensified. Entire villages, like Oradour-sur-Glane, were massacred in retaliation. Still, the Maquis held their ground, delaying, disrupting, and dividing German forces until the Allies could break through. When Paris rose in open revolt, Maquis fighters surfaced everywhere. Dirty, hungry, often unrecognizable, but fierce and proud. Some, like Jean Moulin, became legends. Many thousands more remain nameless, their graves unmarked. But their sabotage missions, their midnight raids, their anonymous courage has never been forgotten. What drove them? Patriotism, hatred of oppression, sometimes just the desire to survive. But at the heart, a single shared belief that freedom was worth any sacrifice, even if no one else would ever know their name. Today, the echoes of the Maquis linger in the forests of France. Rusting metal, old safe houses, initials carved in tree trunks, a silent tribute to fighters who changed history by never surrendering. Their story is not just one of war, but of ordinary people daring to stand up when the world seemed darkest. So, next time you hear of a train derailed, a bridge destroyed, or a whisper in the night, remember the Maquis, the shadow army that fought not for glory, but for freedom. There are hundreds more stories hidden in those shadows. How many never made it into the history books? Stay curious, because history is full of resistance, and some of its bravest never wore a uniform. Who would you be if the world turned upside down? Perhaps a Maquisard,